Next time on Oh So Curious, we're going to talk about Black Adam. And there's some rumors that beyond this being a rock fest, we may
I like that.
actually get our old man of steel back, Mr. Henry. You say Cavill or Cavill?
Cavill.
Travel.
Cavill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Dan, as a diehard fan of Man of Steel, are you excited to see him come back?
Yes, I am. I mean, yes. Now the thing is, from what we know so far, it looks like he's only gonna be in a post-credit scene. And I mean, okay. I guess we've already been talking about it. So if you're watching this, I'm sure the thumbnail will probably already spoil it for you. But here's a warning, spoiler warning, in case you haven't figured this out on your own or on the internet. Um, The Rock went on Jimmy Fallon this week promoting the movie, and he basically said something along the lines of that, that you know that one cameo or that one appearance that we've been looking forward to. All I'll have to say about that is welcome home. And it's been long overdue, and like they kind of had this conversation. Jimmy Fallon was more or less just teasing him, but
Mm-hmm.
because these late they're gonna probe, right? Everybody wants it's up to
Yeah.
the actors to kind of like give away details. It seems like The Rock is like very much like in control of a lot of like what he's able to dish out or not dish out, and he's made it
Yeah.
no secret at this point that Henry Cavill is back. And now, before we even kind of talk about that, because that's big. That's big. There's implications of
Huge.
that we can talk about in detail. I wanted to kind of throw it back to you guys and like this movie, the character of Black Adam. A, like, are you guys familiar with the character? And B, are you at all excited to watch the movie for what it is? Because Henry Cavill's, if he does show up, he's showing up right at the very end after the credits. There's a whole
Yeah.
movie that plays before that. So I mean, what is
I
your
know,
interest
isn't it
level?
weird that like we're looking forward to the post-credit scene already?
Well,
Yeah.
it
Um,
is, yeah. There's something to be said about that. Certainly the marketing, and I think it goes to show maybe that's an indication of they need to put this out there rather than having it be a straight surprise to bring more people to the theaters, because I don't think they were as confident in the ability of this movie to kind of come out the
yeah, I
gates,
mean, to
you
answer your
know.
question, I think a lot of people are like totally unfamiliar with this, except for people who know the comics or who they're familiar with DC and how everything interconnects there. Um, you know, for some reason, and I honestly don't know what it is, our culture is like captivated with The Rock. I've never really understood that.
You're
You
not
know,
a WWE guy?
honestly, he hasn't been for a really long time, you know?
It's been like a decade
And
almost. He makes a few appearances here and there, but he has the last run he had was like 10 years ago.
he's pretty much just an actor now. And I remember I forget what movie it was, but like he suddenly wasn't Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He was just Dwayne Johnson. And we've sort of, I don't know, like he has his own show about his life, and he was Crypto
It's a
the
decent
super
show.
dog, and like he's in comedies and he's in buddy cop movies, and like
Yeah.
I'm just like, what's compelling about him? Is he a fantastic actor? Is he really really funny? Do women think he's really attractive? Is he? Are we afraid that he's gonna beat us up if we don't like him? Is my real question here. Like, I I don't know. I'll see the movie, but I have no prior interest in Black Adam. I have no particular affinity for The Rock, who seems like a really great guy. Seems like a nice dude. But um, I don't know. Who is this movie for me? I don't think so. Roland?
I think even if you aren't like a fan of the comics or not even a fan of Dwayne Johnson, I think there's the visual effects on this just looks amazing, which can't really be said for every Marvel project right now, you know. This definitely took a little bit more time, but we're seeing some good results. I'm seeing a lot of like really cool shots that and like I don't know.
Yeah,
I get a kick
it
out of it.
does. It does. You know what? It does look impressive. I like the idea of an anti-hero.
Yeah.
I could convince myself that I want to see this and that it looks because it does. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
And the Atom, like that's I like the Atom. I didn't know the Atom was going to be in this.
The
That's
Atom
really cool.
Oh, that's
Smasher.
the Atom Smasher.
The Atom Smasher?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's played by Noah Centineo. Remember that guy? He used to be in everything. there was like a certain year that guy was he was always in casting announcements and stuff like that. But
Actors have
The
years like that,
name
yeah.
sounded familiar. I don't think I've seen him in a whole lot of things.
I think if you see his face, you'll be like, oh yeah, that guy.
Well, no, I saw the face looks familiar. I couldn't connect him to a particular role. That's I mean maybe, but what I've watched is probably not what he was
Yeah. Well, so
attached
what's
to.
interesting about this is like we've had all these talks about the change ups at Warner Brothers and Discovery, and there's been talks about like how do we make the DCEU compete with Marvel. Dwayne Johnson recently said we're not trying to compete with Marvel, we're not trying to be Marvel, we're trying to be our own thing. A good move in terms
Literally.
of something to say in a press release. Do you really think that this doesn't look like a Marvel movie? How will we know that this doesn't feel like a Marvel movie when we go see it?
Marvel and DC have always had a different feeling, no matter like how early you go. There's always been this divide, and Marvel is, I think, as we've previously mentioned in this episode, was kind of like it's usually for all audience. It's almost got like this family friendliness to it.
Yeah.
It's a little more comedic, and DC has always been like more interested in story developments and characters and unraveling these like crazy things, and honestly not afraid to be a little weird with it and be a little dark with it. And
Yeah, the darkness is something that I definitely that
yeah,
definitely resonates with me. Um, Dan, do you think there's any other elements to this that like will make this stand apart from every other superhero movie we've seen recently?
Well, I'll just say this. I've been scrolling through the pictures for the last few minutes, and I'll kind of go back through the roster. For the first time in, I think, cinematic history, live action cinematic history, we're getting a portrayal of the Justice Society. I don't know if they're going to call it the Justice Society of Americas, but
I think they
we
are.
know they call it the Justice Society, which was the precursor in the comics to the Justice League. They're the very first superhero team in comic books history. So you got Hawkman, you have Cyclone. Obviously, we talked about Atom Smasher. The character I'm most excited about is, of course, 007 James Bond, Mr. Pierce Brosnan coming in and
Dr.
taking over the
Fate, man.
role, the first live action portrayal ever of Dr. Fate. And the internet's been
But
rife with comparisons with
can we
Doctor
go?
Strange.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's the thing. Go back to that picture of him for a moment. Like, how can you have that even as a screenshot? The character's name is Doctor Fate. How can you say you're not trying to compete with the MCU by putting him in a movie, giving him the goatee and that very, very similar costume, played by
I'm
a
glad you
squinty
walked
British
into
man?
this. Roland, how about
I
you?
will say the goatee. That's amazing point, Andrew. That's a good point. That's funny.
Squinty British man too.
But okay,
Swept back
Roland,
hair.
you wanna address like why the comparison is maybe not entirely fair?
No, it's absolutely fair. Dr. Fate and Doctor Strange were another example. It's the whole man thing and swamp thing again.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many instances of this
Yeah, well, I
happening.
mean, what I mean is though, like okay, again, well, there's Namor coming this year. We have Aquaman and DC, but like in this case, Doctor Fate has been around in the comics a lot longer than Doctor Strange. Obviously, to the average
I
person,
know,
they're gonna connect
but
this to. Is this Doctor Strange for DC?
this is a real Mr. Pibb Dr. Pepper thing for me. Like it's
Fair.
it's the
I
same
mean,
soda.
definitely different story. Totally different story. For Dr. Fate, he doesn't have magic powers until he puts on the helmet. And then he's like
Yes.
possessed by the spirit, and then he has these magic powers, but he
Which
doesn't
actually feels a
necessarily
lot more like
body.
Shadow Knight. Not
Shadow
Shadow
Knight.
Knight. Moon Knight, excuse me. Shadow
Oh,
Knight's
Moon
another
Knight.
one.
I feel
Um,
like there was a Shadow Knight too, somewhere
Shadow Knight was
Shadow Knight definitely sounds like something that's out there.
that exists.
I'm a
it
Google
is
it.
out there. I just realized why. I play Shadow Knight in a kid's cartoon.
Spoilers.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Moon Knight.
Shadow Knight is coming up as Moon Knight, so
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
for some reason I don't know. Oh,
The point I was trying to
it's an
make though is,
enemy.
the JSA, the Justice Society. I think that's gonna be something very fun to watch. That dynamic, and this is obviously they're starting out with they're starting out with only a subset of characters, but they're going to add to this roster, I hope, over the like the coming movies and whatever. But I like the look of Doctor Fate. Honestly, I think the character design in general looks, I mean, in live action at least. I think in the comic books, Doctor Strange looks better. But as far as the live action iteration so far, I'm liking the look of Fate better than Strange. That's just me. There's a little bit of confusion with Atom Smasher, because I think they almost in the Zack Snyder's Justice League, they do basically hint at or introduce the person who ends up becoming the Atom, in the
Hmm.
comics. He's like one of the scientists at the Crash Kryptonian ship lab, like Star Labs scientist. Um, I've never seen. I didn't even know what character like Cyclone was until I'm like, okay, well, cool. Um, I'm sure she's a great. I haven't even seen anything that it's Quintessa Swindell, I think is her name, has been in,
Mhm.
but I'm excited to see that she's the only female member of the team, which is curious.
I
Hawkman,
will say, I will say
you
the
know,
look of these images, it feels a lot more like Greek myth, kind of. I mean, like
yeah.
the lighting on this stuff, they look like Renaissance paintings. I mean, they are like it's a different feeling for sure. Because Marvel tends to feel a lot more like, candy. It's you know, candy with a lot of depth and like exciting stuff, but it's like real in your face, bright, colorful, a lot of movement. This feels like hardcore action. I think they're leaning into that Dark Knight sensibility where they're going to try and bring it into the real world, and make us believe the reality, even though, yeah, like it just feels kind of mythic.
I like I mean, like The Rock is built like a superhero. He's not wearing any padding. This is just him, and they just put like a layer on top. That's it. I like, he doesn't have to go very far in terms
Mm.
of as an actor to kind of portray the character that he's playing, because more so than a lot of characters he's played over the years, in this character he can sort of be himself, but
Yeah.
like heightened a little bit more. He can float and he can do other things, but I like
Well,
that. I
I
mean,
also I
I'm
I
not gonna
like
watch
that.
this as an Oscar contender, but I will
Yeah.
like. I'm gonna try to enjoy it for what it is. That's how I'm looking
Honestly,
at
I
it.
like that he's not going to try and charm me with a bunch of jokes in this. That's probably
Yeah, he's
my
ripping people's
biggest.
arms off. That's what he's
Yeah,
doing
Yeah,
in
that's
this
fair.
movie.
that he's not here to make me laugh, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We'll see it, and we'll talk about it, and hopefully, if you're watching this and you're planning on seeing it too, you
Hey,
can join the
sorry.
discussion.
I know we
Hmm.
skipped over it early. I'm sorry. Don't mean to cut you off, but can we have a mini conversation about like what is the implication of Henry Cavill coming back as Superman, Man of Steel?
I mean, we can, yeah. It's like I don't know. Here's my take on it. They said they were going to reboot the DCEU. They were going to try and
Nobody
do all
said
these
it.
new
It
things.
wasn't ever
No,
officially said.
there were rumblings, and they were talking about like, well, there's new shakeups at the company, and so we got to figure out what we're going to do with this
They
whole
said there's
thing.
gonna
And
be a new
so,
10-year plan. They didn't say they
10-year
were
plan,
rebooting
yeah.
anything.
You know what? It it doesn't look like my 10-year plan for DC. Um, I I was ready for a new Superman personally. Um, but hopefully they give him an opportunity to what a lot of people think, to the opportunity to right the wrongs of how they've treated this character in the last 10 years. I think it's, I think we could use a new Superman. We've had so many new Batmans in the last decade. Um, and I'd like to see more of a classic take on him personally. That's me.
I mean, you don't have to change the actor to do that. You could just make a new movie that kind of feels more in
That's
line with
true.
the 70s. Um,
That's true.
I'm excited, honestly. It's a post-credit scenes if you were to believe the rumors and everything The Rock has said, and if I mean, I have not seen the leak scene online myself, but if you have, I guess that confirms it. So we're gonna be reviewing the movie next week. So we'll watch it regardless of whatever you think about it. I'm excited. I don't know if you guys are. I mean, Andrew, you've made it clear
I
you
mean,
are
yeah,
not.
I'm excited.
You know
Yeah.
what? I'm warming up to the idea. I'm warming up
All
to the
right.
idea. I'll see it and I'll tell you what I think. You guys go see it. You tell me what you think. Anybody watching, same deal. We'll meet back here next week, and we'll talk about it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to all the Oh So Curious content. I'll be back later with some House of the Dragon stuff. We're covering all kinds of shows, Lord of the Rings, Andor. We're here talking about stuff, and we will be back. We'll see you then.